Fellow gardeners, let me share something that completely transformed my garden and might just revolutionize yours too. After years of planting in traditional rows like my grandmother taught me, I discovered a simple shift that quadrupled my harvest while cutting my garden space in half. The secret? Growing in blocks instead of rows. Most of us learn to garden in straight, neat rows with wide walkways between them. It looks organized, feels familiar, and mimics what we see on large commercial farms. But here's the thing, your backyard isn't a commercial farm, and you don't need space for tractors to drive through. Those wide pathways between rows are essentially dead space in your garden. They're taking up valuable real estate that could be growing food instead of just providing a place for your feet. When you calculate the actual growing area versus the total garden space in a traditional row system, you'll find that often less than half your garden is actually producing food. Block planting, also known as intensive gardening or square-foot gardening, involves growing plants in closely spaced blocks or squares rather than traditional rows. Instead of single-file lines of vegetables separated by walkways, you create dense plantings where vegetables are spaced just far enough apart to reach their mature size without competing for resources. The beauty of this system lies in its efficiency. Plants naturally grow in circular patterns, not rectangles, so when you space them properly in blocks, their root systems and canopies fill the space completely without waste. The dense planting creates a living mulch effect where the plant leaves shade the soil, reducing water evaporation and suppressing weeds naturally. Think of it this way, in nature, plants don't grow in neat rows. They grow in patches, clusters, and communities. Block planting mimics this natural pattern while maximizing your harvest potential. Here's where the magic really happens, and why I can confidently say you'll quadruple your harvest. In traditional row planting, you might have rows that are 18 inches apart, with plants spaced 12 inches apart within the row. This means each plant effectively occupies an 18 by 12 inch rectangle or 216 square inches. With block planting, that same plant only needs a 12 by 12 inch square or 144 square inches. That's a 33% increase in planting density right there, but it gets even better when you factor in the eliminated walkways. In a traditional 4 by 8 foot raised bed planted in rows, you might fit 16 plants with necessary walkways. Using the block method in that same space, you can easily fit 32 plants or more, depending on the variety. The math is simple but powerful. More plants in the same space equals dramatically higher yields. The key to successful block planting is understanding proper spacing for each vegetable. For leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, and arugula, you can often space plants just 4 to 6 inches apart in all directions. These shallow-rooted crops don't compete heavily with each other and actually benefit from the microclimate created by dense planting. Medium-sized plants like bush beans, beets, and carrots need about 6 to 8 inches of spacing. Root vegetables are particularly well-suited to block planting because their foliage doesn't spread as much, allowing for tighter spacing while their roots grow straight down. Larger plants like broccoli, cabbage, and peppers typically need 12 to 18 inches of spacing, but even these benefit from block planting because you eliminate the wasted walkway space between traditional rows. One concern many gardeners have about block planting is accessibility. How do you tend to plants in the middle of a dense block? The answer lies in strategic path planning and understanding reach distances. Most people can comfortably reach about 24 inches from a path, which means you can create blocks that are up to 4 feet wide with paths on either side. For beds against walls or fences, keep blocks to 2 to 3 feet wide so you can reach all plants from one side. Your paths don't need to be as wide as traditional row gardens either. A 12 to 18 inch path is plenty for comfortable access while minimizing wasted space. I use stepping stones or narrow boards to create defined paths that prevent soil compaction while keeping the pathways as narrow as possible. Dense plantings put different demands on your soil compared to traditional spacing. The increased plant density means more competition for nutrients and water, making soil quality absolutely critical for success. Before transitioning to block planting, invest time in building your soil with plenty of organic matter. Compost, aged manure, and organic fertilizers become even more important when you're growing more plants in less space. I add a 2 to 3 inch layer of compost to my beds each season and supplement with organic fertilizers throughout the growing season. The good news is that dense plantings actually help improve soil over time. The increased root mass and organic matter from plant residues feed soil organisms, and the living mulch effect of dense plantings protects soil structure and retains moisture. Block plantings require more consistent moisture than traditional gardens because of the increased plant density and competition. However, the dense canopy also reduces water evaporation, so your overall water needs might not increase as much as you'd expect. Drip irrigation or soaker hoses work exceptionally well with block plantings. The consistent slow water delivery ensures all plants get adequate moisture without the runoff and waste common with overhead sprinklers. I've found that mulching paths between blocks further reduces water needs by preventing evaporation from exposed soil. Pay attention to your plant's water needs and adjust accordingly. The dense plantings create their own microclimate that retains moisture better than traditional gardens, but during hot, dry periods, you may need to water more frequently. One of the most powerful aspects of block planting is how it facilitates succession planting, the practice of planting new crops every few weeks to ensure continuous harvests. With traditional row planting, succession planting often means dedicating entire rows to different planting dates, which can be space prohibitive in smaller gardens. Block planting allows you to harvest sections of blocks and immediately replant them while other sections are still growing. You can divide larger blocks into smaller sub-blocks, harvesting and replanting every 2 weeks to maintain continuous production throughout the season. This approach works particularly well with quick-growing crops like lettuce, radishes, and spinach. As you harvest one section of a block, immediately prepare that soil and plant the next succession, keeping your garden in constant production. Block planting opens up exciting possibilities for companion planting, growing mutually beneficial plants together. Traditional row systems often separate different crops, but blocks allow you to intermingle compatible plants for better overall garden health. Try mixing quick-growing radishes between slower-maturing carrots. The radishes will be harvested before the carrots need the space, effectively giving you 2 crops from one block. Plant basil among your tomatoes, lettuce around the base of pepper plants, or create 3 sister blocks with corn, beans, and squash. The key is understanding the growth habits, timing, and space requirements of different plants so you can create beneficial combinations that maximize both space and plant health. Ready to transform your garden and multiply your harvest? Block planting isn't just a technique, it's a complete shift in how you think about garden space and productivity. Start small with one bed or section of your garden, experiment with spacing, and watch as your yields soar while your workload decreases. If this article helped you reimagine your garden's potential, subscribe to Soil Sage Chronicles for more game-changing gardening insights, and share this with fellow gardeners who are ready to maximize their harvest. Together, we're growing more than just vegetables. We're cultivating a smarter, more productive approach to gardening that works with nature, not against it.